Look at that. That is horrible. If only I had a welder, I could fix that myself. I've said that to myself so many times. This time, I broke down and bought one. Hey everybody, AJ here, and welcome back to the Eagle Ray channel where we do all things DIY electric boats. Electric motors, batteries, solar panels, you name it. If it's got volts and it's on a boat, you're in the right place. Today we're gonna fix my boat trailer. I bought this old pontoon trailer from a guy out in Yuma, Arizona, and he told me it was probably safe to drive it a couple 100 miles, which is how far I needed to go to get home. But he did say he was planning to replace this trailer. I believe his exact words were, "It's past its prime." And now I know why. Once I got this trailer out from under my boat, I was able to knock the rust off and paint it black, but as I was working on it, I noticed this little fiasco. This is for sure why this guy didn't want to keep this trailer. I mean, the whole thing is pretty DIY. I think he welded several parts of this himself. The gauge of steel he used on this cross member is obviously not up to the task of holding a 22-foot pontoon, and that's why you're getting a rip here. You can see this is 2 by 3. I don't think it's stainless because it was just covered in rust all the way through. You can see down here, I haven't painted that part yet. That's what the entire trailer looked like there. And this rip here, it runs along the entire length of this cross member. It goes down the side, but I'm gonna try and bring you up from underneath so you can, it's probably too dark, but. So this thing is about to come apart. I do not want to put my boat back on this. So long story short, I need to replace this entire cross member. So without further ado, let's weld stuff. First things first, I don't have any steel on hand and metal is really expensive, but I do have a lot of aluminum on hand. Now they say you shouldn't weld aluminum and steel together, and you also shouldn't bolt it together, especially in a marine application, because when the two metals are touching, especially if they get wet, there's gonna be galvanic corrosion and it'll ruin the aluminum. But I have an idea. I have a lot of plastic on hand. This is HDPE. I cut it out of a trash can, and I have a lot of it left over that was just gonna go in the trash. So I'm gonna use this as a separator. Steel on this side, aluminum on this side, and so there won't be any corrosion. So here's the plan. The busted 3x2 cross member that's on my trailer, it gave way because the brackets are aft of it, not underneath. And so they kind of acted as a lever to twist the tube out of place and cause it to rip on one side. So I'm gonna fix that by making a wider cross member. It's the same thickness as the old tube, but I'm gonna cut 3 of these to the length of the old cross member, and then I'm gonna weld them side by side. So there's gonna be 3 in a row here. So instead of 1.5 inches, it's gonna be 4.5 inches. It's gonna be a super cross member. And that will cover the entire top of all of the brackets that exist in that section for both bolting to the frame and bolting to the axle. If you've been in my shoes, you've probably watched a whole bunch of YouTube videos just like I did about how to weld. And after every video, more and more, I started to feel like, oh my God, I am never gonna be able to do this. But as you acquire a little bit of knowledge, your confidence starts to grow. And so I've now watched hundreds of welding videos. And so naturally, I'm an expert welder already. I have a feeling I might burn my house down, but I have learned a few things. There are 3 types of welding that I know of: stick welding, MIG welding, and TIG welding. With my incredibly high level of expertise, I believe stick welding is meant for these kind of brute force, throw it together and hope for the best jobs. It's kind of like the McDonald's of welding. Whereas MIG welding is more like In-N-Out Burger. It's simple, straightforward, it gives high quality results relative to its simplicity. It's apparently pretty easy to learn, and it can get you off to the races laying down professional welds with just a little bit of practice. But if you're going to weld aluminum, it's possible with a MIG welder, but not really recommended. I have a bunch of scrap aluminum in my garage already, so I don't think MIG welding is gonna be for me. I need more versatility. Enter TIG welding. TIG welding is like a steak at a 4-star restaurant. It's the highest quality, highest learning curve form of welding there is. And as I said, I'm an expert on the subject already, so of course I'm jumping headfirst into hard mode. But before I can weld my first fancy new part, I've got a lot of setup to do and a lot of new gear to purchase. If you have nice stone floors in your garage, my thought was you'll want to protect them against the slag that you always see flying off a welding arc in the movies. Little did I know that with TIG welding, there actually isn't any flying slag at all as long as you're operating the machine correctly, but better safe than sorry. And here you see me starting to realize what I've gotten myself into. I found a good price on a welder, but I soon realized I'd also need specialty gloves, a helmet, a tank of argon gas, a rack to put it all on, a welding table, which is ridiculously heavy for its size by the way. Oh, and last but not least, I didn't want to blind my neighbors as they walk by when my garage door is open, so I bought some welding screens to isolate my brand new welding station. Total cost? Yikes. Okay, we're getting close to turning our first piece of metal into lava. But TIG is an art form that requires preparation. This is where the magic happens. This torch sends electricity from the point of that tungsten rod through a small gap of open air and onto the target that you want to melt. This torch came with my welder, but every piece of this is sold separately and there's a huge aftermarket for modifying these. It's as crazy as guitarists and their foot pedals. I had no idea how much nuance is trapped inside little Sparky here. But as a beginner, you just have to know how to assemble the main pieces. The rear cap is the last thing to tighten down in assembly, first thing to come off in disassembly. Inside you have a little piece called the collet. The cap twists to squeeze the collet bites down on the tungsten to lock it in place. The pink part is the gas nozzle. Argon spews out of that to protect the arc from oxygen because plasma doesn't breathe the same stuff we do. This copper part in front is the collet body. It's supposed to be removable, but mine is stuck tight. I think they do that to idiot-proof this thing for beginners, because the collet body is supposed to be the first thing you tighten down and everything else follows after that. But before we put it all together, our tungsten tips need to get themselves into shape. Apparently, you need to sharpen this to a very fine point. I saw somebody doing it on YouTube, which is always a good way to go. Seems stable enough. What seems less stable is this bad boy. Yeah, wish me luck. It's getting there. Almost there. Okay, I think I have everything that I need to lay down my first few welds. First, I've got to make sure my work area is very clean. Apparently, before you can start welding, especially with aluminum, you've got to not only clean off any dirt, but you've got to clean off the oxide layer that's always present on aluminum. As soon as aluminum has been exposed to oxygen for even a few seconds, it starts to build up this very thin film of corrosion. You have to break through that layer first by using some acetone, which is, from what I've seen online, the go-to way to get your surfaces clean. I don't think I'm supposed to have acetone on my hands. A little bit of acid is not going to kill anybody. Make sure the surface we're going to be building on top of is nice and clean as well. Side. I'm just going to scuff this entire thing. Okay, so now it's time to weld. Don't forget to ground your work.
Don't get scared.
No. There's not enough electricity to even punch through that oxide. See, the piece didn't melt at all. There was no pool formed because the oxide is strong enough that it's not even letting the electricity get through. And it still hasn't quite broken through. Yeah, this is just not working. Maybe I was just too far away. I finally got a pool. Not the best looking pool, but it's a pool. Got a little bit of a crater at the end. There's obviously some oxide that got in the way. It's a little bit like milky and cloudy right here and right here. I'm still getting a feel for how fast I need to back off the pedal in order to not lose the integrity of the arc. Every time I start a new project, I have this weird belief that it's gonna go great the first time, and it never does. It's like this beginner's luck delusion I'm able to put myself in, and it kind of needs to be that way because otherwise I might not really ever get going with a new project. So in the case of welding, I actually thought that I might become this master welder in less than 24 hours. And in retrospect, that's a completely ridiculous notion. So it took about 2 weeks for me to become competent enough to fix my trailer. Got a lot of footage of it. We don't have time to get to all of it today, but I want to show you guys a sneak peek of what's coming next. These are all just a darn mess. I got a hole in my pants right there. Here we go. Yeah, that was nothing. Oh yeah, that is not coming apart at all. Oh. This little spot right in here looks alright, and everything else is just a mess. Like and subscribe so you don't miss it, and join us for the live stream on Sunday where I'm giving away this Milwaukee angle grinder as soon as we reach 1,000 subscribers. Rules are in the description, and remember to set aside some time to get out on the water and enjoy yourself. Until then, boat safe.